We begin tonight with the public apology by the Registrar of the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, Professor Ishaq Oloyede, after admitting there was indeed errors in the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination results. Professor Oloyede, who was in tears while addressing a press conference, took full responsibility for the negligence. He attributed the technical glitches many students faced to a failure to update delivery servers properly, which resulted in distorted results for candidates across 65 centers in Lagos and 92 centers in Owerri zone. An estimated 379,997 candidates from Lagos and the Southeast are now expected to retake the exam. Professor Oloyede says JAMB is working to prevent such incidents in the future and has engaged experts to investigate the technical glitches.
Accept the explanation I've given as the truth on this matter. I apologize and take full responsibility, not just in words. I want to say a big thank you to all of you, and may God bless us all.
Let's take a quick look at the numbers. The total number of candidates who participated in the UTME exams is 1.9 million. 21.5% scored above 200, the widely accepted pass mark, while 78.5% scored below, which is basically in terms of whether or not they passed, they basically failed. A total of 379,997 candidates are expected to retake the exam in 65 centers across Lagos and 92 centers in Owerri zone for Southeast states after what JAMB describes as an unusual outcry by students and stakeholders. The exam board called for a review of the results and subsequently blamed the woeful UTME results on technical glitches. For more on this story, let's bring in Professor David Aurawa, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, as well as Dr. Peter Oguduro, an education researcher. Both are joining me from Lagos. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. You heard Professor Ishaq Oloyede there. Very remorseful, very sad. What do you make of that?
Well, it's very sad that we are having something like this at this time. Before now, people just accepted the results uncritically, we can now say. But this year, because of the very large number of people who were confident that they had studied hard and that there was no way they could score such low marks, the voice became very loud, and the loud voice was what inspired this review. And even though it is not a neat thing, but we should commend JAMB for forthrightness in inviting even other people to come and observe some of the activities, and then leading up to this admission that there were errors, there were glitches, and that this had tremendous impact on the result. And at the poor result we had, 80% or so not scoring up to 200, would not have arisen only just from unseriousness or by the students. That the technical issues were also involved. What we are not sure also happened is sabotage. I mean, deliberate attempt by some people to either help some people or bring down some, as the case may be. But we are happy that JAMB has identified the problem, and then is taking steps to correct it by conducting a make-up exam for those affected.
Professor,
that will help.
Yeah.
That will help to right the wrong to some extent.
And before I ask you my last question, I just want to quickly follow up on this, your answer. Does that make a mockery of the whole system? Because for the past 5 years, if you look back at the numbers which we treated on Monday, we saw that, in 5 years ago, the number of people who failed were like over 80%, and that in the last 5 years, the result this year was actually one of the best, so to speak. And you then begin to wonder, the people came out this time and said, no, that's not my result. Does this make a mockery of the whole system?
To a large extent. To a large extent, because I mean, the result we have this year follows the same pattern as previous years. Like you have observed, even better in some instances, better than some other years. So one could conclude that in previous years, some people might have failed undeservedly. You know, we'll have had glitches like this, and because there wasn't so much noise about it, people accepted the result critically.
Right.
And that is a pity, because it will mean that people should be in school and not in school, not for any fault of the advert, for the fault of the system.
Let's bring in Professor Oguduro right now. And my question to you would be, what systemic loopholes within the operational frameworks of a JAMB basically might have contributed to this widespread technical failure, do you think?
Can you try and help me repeat that question? The technology didn't quite permit me to get it clear.
My question is, what systemic loopholes within the operational frameworks of JAMB might have contributed to the widespread technical failures? We just saw a very grown man crying his eyes out and trying to suppress the emotions. He came across as someone who's done everything he could have, and then just this sort of glitch just basically undermined his leadership. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so indeed, we must acknowledge the humility Professor Loyode demonstrated in acknowledging the failure of JAMB to give us an exam that has validity. Having given him credit for that, we must put it on record that this is not the first time we are experiencing something like this. As a researcher in the industry, I have generally complained about the kind of results we have been getting from this organization for a good number of years. And I'm happy that you even put it on record, reminded us that this year's result wasn't sharply different, from what we have experienced in the past. What is the challenge here is the fact that JAMB doesn't own most of the infrastructure that they use to conduct this exam. If you listen to him while he was addressing that press conference today, you would have heard him, blame a service provider who is not directly under the control of JAMB. And of course, too, that most of the CBT centers that JAMB uses to conduct this test are not owned by JAMB. They are all owned by private sector people who are businessmen who are driven, by the need to make profit. So when you bring in people who you don't directly control to monitor, deploy, and deliver, the kind of promise that the children are looking forward to having you deliver to them, you definitely will run into this kind of problem. And we must also acknowledge that we are being unfair to Nigerian children because apart from this acknowledgement of the failure of technology, we also know that it doesn't completely explain everything, because what Professor Loyode has acknowledged is failure at the level of uploading results. But we also know that there were failures at the point of writing exams, where computers failed several times, where children were not able, to write the exams uninterruptedly. They kept getting logged out and coming back. So if they really want to do a fair job, they should probably, in the interest of fairness, equity, and justice, just cancel this entire exercise and go back to the drawing board, take about 2 months, and get all the students to rewrite the test. That's the only way you can avoid a situation where you'll be blamed for not making provisions for equity, fairness, and justice.
To what extent might public confidence have been affected by this lack of capacity that we're now seeing that JAMB has displayed in this instance?
Yeah, definitely. You don't expect us to have the capacity, to be able to handle this large-scale exam. We're a poor country. We don't have all the money it takes to bring in the kind of infrastructure required. We also haven't got the human resources, really, in every aspect of this entire exercise. And so a lot of the things we're doing, we're bringing in people from abroad. We are bringing people from all kinds of places.
Dr. Oguduro, can I come in there? For the sake of those who say, no, we're not a poor country, and no, of course we do have the human resources. Perhaps we're not deploying them in the right direction.
their per capita income is under $1,000. Norway has per capita income of over $400,000. UAE has a per capita income of over $100,000. Your per capita income is under $1,000. So the money a Norwegian earns in a year, Nigerian will live his entire life. He won't earn it. It takes two lifetimes for a Nigerian to earn the kind of money a Norwegian earns in a year. So their country is poor. We haven't got the technical know-how at the level that we want to play. So JAMB is wrong to be insisting that all Nigerian children who are finishing secondary school now must must prove what they know via computer, because most of them were actually not taught in environments where computers were used to teach them. And if you do my kind of job as somebody who is into equity, fairness, and justice in education, I do research in the Scandinavian region, and a major principle that we emphasize is that you must never ask a child to give you what you want to know,
right,
in a language you did not use to teach him. So we didn't use computer to teach the children. We are asking them to use computer to
I'm going to have to bring in Professor Aurawa right now. And my question is, you heard Dr. Oguduro saying that perhaps the entire candidates who applied should write the exams again. But we've heard JAMB saying that about 379,000 students will take that exam. What parameters do you think JAMB deployed to decipher who's going to take what?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that definitively.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, how did they come about that number? If we have agreed that there was technical glitches, there was just so much problems and it affected certain centers, shouldn't everybody just retake the exams?
Well, you see, it's a very tricky thing. Those who have got high, who have done well, if you tell them to go back to write the exam and they don't do well, they will also tell you that the system has been unfair and unjust to them. That they didn't have glitches, they did their exams, and you tell them they write the same exam. Of course, they are also going to complain. So the parameter that JAMB utilized to determine 390-something thousand or thereabouts that will write the exam is what we have to be concerned with. The JAMB said he set up a committee to investigate the entire process, and that the committee was able to establish those that had problems in the course of the exam. And the figure is they are very definitive about the figure.
Yes.
So one can trust that they've done a thorough job to have arrived at that figure, because when you cancel the entire process, as somebody who had 370, for instance, one of the highest in the last 10 years, and he goes back to score below 200, how do you explain to him that you have been fair to him? So right now, there is no neat way out of it. But let us see what JAMB does by conducting this exam. I don't subscribe to canceling the whole thing, because you create more problems when you do that.
Right.
Let us see how they handle smaller percentage first, and then we can take it from there.
Professor Aurawa, it is the psychological impact of this whole exercise on a lot of young people. We all know how much JAMB just shapes the fate and the future of a lot of young people. You fail that exam, you hide from your friends. We're hearing reports of some people committing suicide. News Central has not been able to independently confirm some of these reports. My question is then, those who have decided to sue JAMB, should they still go ahead and do it after JAMB has admitted to these errors? I think I want both of you to answer the question, but I'll go with Professor Aurawa first.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, there is lots of confidence in the system already, and we have people who said they would sue JAMB, right from the beginning. They could still go ahead, perchance those who were confident that they should have passed the exam and now they didn't pass. If the number, if those identified to write the exam, they are not among them, they could still go to court. That JAMB should establish them that they. So, like I said before, it is not neat either way. It is not neat either way. But like I also said, let them go ahead with the exam for the 390-something thousand thereabouts, and let's see how it goes. Let's hope that those they have identified are all the people affected by the glitches, such that nobody will now have a basis to want to take legal action against JAMB.
Dr. Ogudoro, your reaction to that?
Well, I'm very concerned about equity, fairness, and justice when we do things. You see, most of the candidates who are going to rewrite this exam are already in the thick, in the middle of another important exam. In fact, much more important than even the JAMB UTME itself, because UTME is not a certification. You can do without UTME and you still be able to get to the university. They are writing WASC at the moment. And you want them to also be saddled with the responsibility to be studying, for a higher level exam, because JAMB is a higher level exam. They have something else they are grappling with, which has a different curriculum to some extent. Like the JAMB and WASC are not exactly the same. These children are doing 9 subjects at the moment, and you want them to start worrying about going to the right exam that they have already, believe that they have finished. So I think that if we are smart, we shouldn't rush this. Even if we are limiting ourselves to only this 380,000 people, we shouldn't ask them to write now. We should let them finish the exam they have in their hands at the moment, and then when they are done with WASC, we give them 1 week to rest, and they can then focus on JAMB UTME. That's the way to go. But going beyond this point, I think we should reevaluate the whole idea of using CBT to conduct exams for every child in Nigeria, because most children in Nigeria are not taught with computers, and we are asking them to prove to us what they know with an instrument that was never involved in the training they received in their classrooms. That's not how to be fair.
Well,
we are doing the wrong thing.
Well said, and we can go on and on, but thank you, gentlemen. I would have to leave it there. Professor David Aurawa, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies, Dr. Peter Ogudoro, an education researcher. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and good night.
Bye.